The Southern Ocean is one of the largest and wildest stretches of water on the entire planet. Yet few people realise that it's also one of the most important. Professor Matthew England from the University of New South Wales Climate Change Research Centre is studying the role the Southern Ocean plays on our weather.
You'll see in the nightly weather, you'll see these very intense weather systems south of Australia, cold fronts and very deep lows, and these have heaps of moisture in them, and they, if we're lucky enough, the rainfall associated with these weather systems will come across southwest Western Australia and southern Australia and bring us relief from dry spells. So we're really focusing on these weather systems and how they might be shifting to the south, and if they shift, is it a permanent shift or will it return, in decades to come?
By using some of the world's most advanced atmospheric computer modelling techniques, Matthew and his colleagues are uncovering some disturbing trends. The infamous bad weather of the Southern Ocean is steadily moving south as a result of global warming.
From the climate models, it seems that this trend towards of the weather systems moving south is reversible. What concerns climate scientists are where the tipping points are irreversible, and there's certainly examples in the climate system where you can change something and it shifts the climate to a new state, and the reverse pathway is actually almost impossible to take on that sort of timescale. It can occur over thousands or hundreds of thousands of years.
For Australia, this southern drift of climate means that the rain vital for our agricultural sector is falling in the ocean, not where it's needed on land. At stake is potentially billions of dollars in farming revenue, as well as a higher frequency of severe and destructive weather events.
The southern hemisphere is dominated by oceans, and 90% of our increased heat content in the climate system is held by the ocean. So the short story is, if we lived on a planet without any ocean, our current greenhouse gas emissions would have had a tenfold worse impact.
Nonetheless, there's only so much heat that the Southern Ocean can absorb. And understanding how its influence on our weather will change into the future is something vital not just for Australia, but for the entire world.
We were concerned about the quality of life of residents in nursing homes, and their high levels of depression and high levels of social isolation and loneliness of people in nursing homes, and we wanted to address these problems. We found that the level of agitation in the chemotherapy group decreased significantly over the 12 weeks of the study and stayed low at 26 weeks compared to controls. This is about a 20% on average decrease.
Do you think I should have it in plaits? Actually, you'd look nicer with that, huh?
The chemotherapy consisted of a clown doctor specifically trained to work with elders in nursing homes, visiting the home for 2 hours each week for 12 weeks. As well as that, we trained one volunteer from each of the homes to be the laughter boss. The laughter boss was someone who carried through the humour into everyday practice and encouraged the other staff at the home to do so.
I think humour provokes the playful self, and that is that you're using humour to provoke them into a response and to play back and to make a contribution. It's that lovely quote by Dr. Stuart Brown. It's the stick that stirs the drink, so to speak, humour and play. And so you're stirring them up to give a response coming from the heart. Once they know you're genuinely there for them, you're not putting them down, you're just teasing them ever so slightly.
Somewhere else.
All right, now, Norma, you say, "Oh, help me, help me, help me. I can't pay the rent. Who will save me?"
I can get an agent now.
A high proportion of residents in nursing homes have dementia, And agitation is one of the symptoms of dementia. And we think it's partly because they can't express themselves very well, so you don't know what their needs are, if they're hungry or thirsty or in pain.
Some of the people could not be understood on an intellectual level, like they were speaking gibberish. But it's amazing in that gibberish that emotionally they were really telling you how they were feeling. I would respond in a way, speaking the same language back to them. It's an old-fashioned approach that commedia dell'arte companies would use when they were travelling through foreign countries. So they didn't have to really speak dialogue. They were going, and so all these sounds and words and gesture I could use to communicate back and forth with them, and we would go places that were just phenomenal.
Behind the dementia there's a real person. There's a person with a past, with loves, with likes, with taste, with passions for different things. And dementia doesn't just wipe out the person completely, memory. It's like the erosion of different parts of the brain. But there are islands, even whole continents of brain, which are still there. And the skill is trying to tap into those.
Right, so I've got this flock of sheep in my back garden.
Deep respect and a great knowledge of who they are. You know, they could be, you know, worked as a wool classer, so you get that background, whether they married, how many children they had, where they grew up, all of that, the family story. Like, I remember your daughter saying that you ended up putting a frog in her sleeping bag when you went on holiday down at Rosebud. Who told you that? You know, that kind of stuff.
When we looked at the people, they were often sitting mute, apathetic, but when we engaged them in their activities, they came to life. They started smiling, they started interacting, they took part in theatrical performances, they played this mock game of tennis, an English teacher listened to poetry being read and you could see this beatific smile spread across her face.
What would you do now you're in charge of the world?
Oh, not you have.
Oh, thanks, that's me gone.
Well, I'd like humour therapy to become a mainstream psychosocial intervention in nursing homes, the way that we would use massage or music therapy or aromatherapy now. Yeah, so I'd like it to become part of the arsenal in how we tackle challenging behaviours in residential aged care.
If they're enjoying themselves more, their transition into the next world is going to be more relaxed, more calm, and you know, more centred. They'll be carrying less angst, less baggage, I think. So I see it in the sense as a bit of a peripheral midwifery role. And I think as you need help to get into this world, you need a lot of help to get out gently and with love and compassion and empathy.
What is engineering, what does that mean to you?
Engineering's a way of life. It's the future. The past, the present, and the future.
How do you feel about engineering in general?
It seems really fun. Like, you get to do some really cool stuff.
What's most exciting about Open Day?
It's just really exciting seeing everyone like really excited about engineering.
So Anton, what excites you most about mechanical engineering?
Building race cars that go fast.
What types of engineering are you most interested in seeing today?
Software, renewable energy, and perhaps mechanical.
So what do you think of the campus so far? You said you had a look at the colleges. What are you thinking?
Oh, they look amazing.
What do you enjoy most about mining engineering?
We get to work every summer, so you get the practical aspect.
It's a really interesting degree, varied kind of work things. To get really into the industry makes a massive difference as well.
It's been great. I quite like the campus. It's open, friendly atmosphere.
What field of engineering are you going to go into?
Petroleum engineering, I reckon.
What have you seen so far at the Open Day that's been interesting for you?
I like the chemical engineering. That was interesting.
Tell us a little bit about the SunSwift program.
SunSwift is a student engineering project run out of the University of New South Wales. We design and build solar-powered cars and then race them.
What excites you about biomedical engineering?
Pretty much the opportunities in what you can do, especially in research, as well in industry later on.
And what do you think about campus here?
I like the campus. It's really nice. It's really broad and stuff. So yeah, really enjoy it.
Yeah, I reckon it's probably the best out of all the unis in Sydney.
How are you enjoying the UNSW Open Day so far?
It's been really good. It's a great day and having a good time.
Any advice to prospective students?
Just get in.
the wilds of Papua New Guinea, Professor Brett Nyland is on a microscopic medicine hunt. Brett and his team are searching the medicine cabinets of some of the oldest cultures in the world to find potential life-saving drugs and make their production sustainable.
If you find a new drug in a plant, what often happens is that plant is harvested or chopped down and it's all taken away. And what will happen is that drug in that plant will be gone forever.
Working with local scientists as well as bush doctors and healers, Brett's work involves isolating specific medicinal plants and then searching for bioactive or useful medicinal compounds.
And our particular process is that we look for the fungus and the bacteria that live in the plant, because I guess one of our major theories is that the drugs are not produced by the plant itself, they're produced by things that live in the plant, and these are called endophytes.
Once these endophytes are identified, the bacteria and fungus that produce them can be cloned, providing an infinite supply of the required drug with no need to harvest them from nature. Papua New Guinea is the perfect place for research like Brett's, with a diverse culture, a rich tradition in bush medicine, and some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet.
For a scientist, it's like Ferdinand Magellan sailing around the planet going bang, or new country. You can't help but discover things in a place like PNG.
But discoveries are also being made closer to home. Back in Sydney, PhD student Kristen Miller is applying Brett's techniques to Chinese medicines and finding that though many of the compounds she's hunting are new to science, they're often ancient history to nature.
Finding the reason behind why traditional medicines are used is something so exciting. It's like validating the traditional medicine that has been used for 2 centuries.
Some of the oldest traditional medicine is that of Indigenous Australia. On the outskirts of suburban Sydney, Brett's PhD student Shane Ingri is studying plants that have been used for millennia, but are only now being understood.
So this is a leptospermum species, or coastal tea tree. This was used for, you could boil these types of leaves up or heat them up in water and use it as a wash for any kind of infection or like a wound opening or whatnot. So I'm just going to take a section of the stem back and some leaves back to work on in the lab. Well, I've always found that it's a good way to mix like my traditional and cultural learnings in with sort of modern day science, and it's a good way to, one, get people interested in science, especially from the Indigenous communities, and also to look at our Indigenous plants, which a lot of people think are just, the medicine plants are just, hoodoo. But it's good that you can take this back to the lab and prove that it was actually, like there were medicinal properties, and finding that they can cure certain diseases that are still around today.
All around the world, traditional medicinal plants, as well as modern plant-based medicines, are in constant demand. If we're to balance the health of humanity with the health of the environment, then developing new science like this is critical.
Having our hands on the technology we do have, and then coupling that with tens of thousands of year-old knowledge, it's all like, it all fits together perfectly. It's like, why ignore this stuff? There's millions of drugs out there waiting to be discovered.
As the population approaches 7 billion people, it means that all of our waste products are also growing. And one of those waste products is carbon dioxide. The pollutants that we're putting in are going to take hundreds of thousands of years to be cleansed away by natural processes. And what we're putting into the atmosphere really constitutes an unprecedented experiment with our planet that is going to lead to changes that haven't been seen in millions of years. The likely consequences are going to be, number one, much hotter temperatures, summertime heat stress that will become really a problem, likely drying of most of the continent, and rising sea levels, which will become a problem because most of us live near the coast. As the whole world warms up, a lot of places are going to become not very pleasant to live in. For example, tropical nations, Indonesia, and others, and that's going to generate a lot of refugees. And Australia is going to be one place where they're going to want to come. This is a problem we can't just run away from. It's not one river we're talking about here or one lake, it's the entire planet and its climate system. And so we really have one go, and we have to get this one right.
The creative spark of an Australian researcher is about to transform steel making. New green technology that turns waste plastic and rubber into steel will soon appear on the world market. One Steel has signed a global deal with Sydney's University of New South Wales to sub-license the technology. The process is the brainchild of Professor Veena Sahajwala.
Well, what we have done is we've actually created the ability to recycle waste plastics and waste rubber for making steel. In the process itself, we've actually shown that the steelmaking process can in fact become more energy efficient. So we've lowered our electricity consumption. So it's win-win from both recycling waste materials as well as from energy consumption that's used in the steelmaking process.
It was just such an exciting opportunity with the environmental issues that were there. Originally this project was all about environment. What can we do to get rid of landfill? Then once we started doing the trials, we saw that it was a major improvement to our productivity and led to a reduction in our electrical energy and our cost.
Items such as shopping bags, takeaway containers and plastic drink bottles are reduced to granulated plastic. These granules are then injected into the furnace. This process accesses carbon, an essential element in electric arc furnace steelmaking. The process has the added benefit of holding in heat, which ultimately lowers the cost of steelmaking.
What a researcher feels when you've actually gone off and, come up with an idea, trialed it, tested it, proven all the theories, and everything works beautifully in the lab, and that's a big, amazing achievement, But then the ultimate icing on the cake is when you've got, an industry that is so keen to take it on board and is as excited as you are to, in fact, implement it and to make it happen. That's been amazing.
Steelmakers are looking to reduce their cost and improve their productivity. And this is one way they can do it, which is environmentally friendly. It is a no-brainer.
Space is a very crowded place these days. Hundreds of satellites daily beam information back to people like Lin Ji. He's made a name internationally for his ability to provide valuable information to those working in disaster zones. An expert in radar remote sensing, Associate Professor Ji and his team have invented a technique for automatic analysis of data from interferometric synthetic aperture radar, or INSAR as it's commonly known.
Radar interferometry basically is to combine two radar images so that we can generate terrain maps or map how much the ground has moved.
When the Sichuan earthquake struck in 2008, Lin Ji and his team were quick to offer their services. Drawing data off a Japanese satellite, the team worked around the clock to interpret the data. They then fed the results back to Chinese authorities so that resources could be sent to where they were most needed.
On the image, it actually shows how much the ground has displaced. Usually people will think, okay, the epicenter will be damaged the most, but that's not the case. It's really where the ground moved the most that would produce the most damage. So by looking at the map we produced, they can actually say, okay, we should send the team there instead of to the epicenter.
This unique capability has since been applied in Australia's Victorian bushfires and floods in the east and north of Australia. Radar sensing has the capacity to cut through thick smoke and cloud cover, going where conventional optical and infrared sensor just can't reach.
For people on the ground, they say, well, okay, there is a gap here. You might be able to get out via a road over there. Our research in this area really began with monitoring of mine subsidence. The surface of the ground would be displaced as a result of mining. So with our technology now, we can monitor better than 1 centimeter, very cost effectively and over a large area.
The UNSW team's expertise is now being used by Chinese authorities to detect illegal mining activities.
The project is about to map the substance due to underground mining and using that information to pick up illegal mining sites. This is the legal mining site. For this one here is actually falling outside the mining plan, so obviously that's illegal. We're very strong in the application domain, and indeed the automated system, we're the only one, and that's why both the Italian Space Agency and the German Space Agency are coming to us for a collaboration.
The team believes it can now offer satellite radar mapping on a global basis.
Cancer claims nearly 1 in 3 lives each year. But a UNSW scientist has devised a drug that could stop tumours by starving them to death. Philip Hogg is the inventor of GSAO. The drug stops cancer cells from making blood vessels so they can't grow and spread. Unlike other cancer treatments, it doesn't poison cancer cells. This means there are no unpleasant side effects such as the nausea and hair loss common with other cancer therapies. GSAO won't cure people of cancer, but Professor Hogg's research indicates that it should stop most tumours in their tracks. The drug is in clinical trials with Cancer Research UK. If successful, this could shift the focus of cancer treatment away from curing the disease to managing it on a lifelong basis. Professor Hogg has also devised a way of telling whether cancer cells are dying within a day or two of starting chemotherapy. This is much faster than current practice, which takes many weeks or months. This will improve patients' chances of survival and allow patients to bypass long bouts of chemotherapy, which might have proven futile. The test uses an imaging agent to pinpoint dying cancer cells. It is being commercially developed by Covidian Limited under licence from New South Innovations.